My world, for 62 years, had been built on the bedrock of family. Not a sprawling, noisy clan, but a small, tightly woven unit centered around my son, Mark. He was my late autumn bloom, arriving when I thought my childbearing years were behind me, a precious gift after his father passed too soon. I poured everything into him: my time, my savings, the boundless, sometimes foolish, love only a mother knows. When he brought Chloe home, a woman with eyes like polished glass and a smile that seemed permanently affixed, I welcomed her with open arms. She was, after all, the woman who made my son happy. And soon, she was carrying the promise of a new generation, my grandchild. The news arrived wrapped in joyous tears and excited whispers. A baby, a tiny life to fill the quiet corners of my home and heart. Mark and Chloe spoke of needing a larger place, of cribs and strollers, of securing a future for their little one. My nest egg, carefully nurtured over decades of frugal living and quiet sacrifices, felt suddenly purposeful. It wasn't just money, it was a foundation for my grandchild's life. "Mom," Mark had said, his hand covering mine, his voice earnest, "we found the perfect little house, just needs a bit of work, but it's got a yard for the baby. We're a little short on the down payment. Chloe's been so stressed, worrying about bringing the baby home to our cramped apartment." How could I refuse? The image of a grandchild playing in a sun-dappled yard was too potent, too beautiful. I liquidated a significant portion of my investments, a sum that made my sensible side quail, $100,000. It felt like handing over a piece of my own security, but the joy in Mark's eyes, the relieved sigh from Chloe, seemed worth the risk. "This is for the baby," I'd said, transferring the funds, my heart swelling with a grandmother's anticipatory love. They promised updates, photos of the house hunt, shared dreams of nursery colors. For a few weeks, I lived in that gilded cage of joy, blissfully unaware of the cracks forming in its bars. The call came on a Tuesday. Mark, sounding unusually flustered. "Mom, can you come over? Chloe's not feeling well, a bit of spotting. The doctor said rest, but she's anxious. Maybe seeing you would help?" Of course, I went immediately, my mind racing with concern for Chloe and the baby. I let myself in with the key they'd given me, calling out softly. Silence. Then I heard voices from the bedroom, low, urgent whispers. Not sounds of distress, but something else, something conspiratorial. I paused in the hallway, my hand hovering over the doorknob, an icy tendril of unease snaking up my spine. It was Chloe's voice, sharp and clear, lacking its usual saccharine sweetness. Can't believe she fell for it so easily. 100 grand, just like that. My blood ran cold. Fell for what? Then Mark's voice, lower, but equally chilling. I know. Just play the worried mom, to be a little longer. Once we close on the house, we can phase out the baby talk." A pause, then Chloe's brittle laugh. "Phase it out? Mark, there is no baby. There never was." "Now, shush, I think I heard the door. Put on your worried face." Eleanor stands frozen in the hallway, the overheard words echoing in the sudden silence, shattering her world. What will she do now, knowing the devastating truth? The world tilted. The hallway seemed to stretch and warp, the pattern on the runner swimming before my eyes. No baby. There never was. The words slammed into me, stealing my breath, leaving a hollow ache where my heart had been. It wasn't just the money, though the thought of that carefully saved sum, earned through years of quiet diligence, being swindled was a physical blow. It was the lie. The elaborate, cruel charade built around the most sacred hope, the promise of a grandchild. My love, my concern, my generosity, all twisted into tools for their deceit. I could hear them murmuring now, shifting tones, preparing their masks. Chloe would be arranging herself on the bed, perhaps clutching her stomach, her face pale with feigned anxiety. Mark would be hovering, the picture of the concerned husband and son. The urge to burst in, to scream, to demand answers, clawed at my throat, but something held me back. a cold, hard knot forming in my stomach, revealing what I knew now would only lead to more lies, denials, perhaps crocodile tears. They had shown me their true faces when they thought they were alone. Confrontation would simply make them more careful, more adept at manipulation. Slowly, deliberately, I backed away from the bedroom door, my footsteps silent on the carpet. I retreated down the hallway, my mind a whirlwind of shock, grief, and a nascent, unfamiliar flicker of ice-cold anger. I pulled the front door quietly shut behind me, the click of the latch sounding unnaturally loud in the sudden stillness of the landing. Standing there, outside the apartment that now felt tainted, alien, I took a shaky breath. The city sounds, distant sirens, the rumble of traffic, seemed muffled, unreal. They thought I was a fool, an easy mark. The doting, slightly naive mother, blinded by love and loneliness, ripe for the picking. They had counted on my unquestioning affection, my eagerness to please, my deep-seated desire for family connection. And they were right, I had been those things. But the woman who walked away from that door was different. The shock was still a physical pain, a tremor in my hands, a tightness in my chest. But beneath it, something else was solidifying: resolve. I walked numbly towards the elevator, my reflection in the polished doors showing a woman I barely recognized, pale, eyes wide with a hurt so profound it felt like a physical wound. But there was a new hardness in their depths, too. They had underestimated me. They had mistaken my kindness for weakness, a fatal error. The echo of their betrayal wasn't just a sound, it was a catalyst. They wanted my money? They had built their scheme on lies? Fine, let the game continue. But now I knew the rules. And I would write the ending. Eleanor has retreated, armed with the devastating truth, but choosing silence for now. How will she maintain the facade? And what is the first move in her silent, unfolding plan? The days that followed were a masterclass in deception, though it cost me dearly. Every smile I offered Mark and Chloe felt like swallowing shards of glass. Every inquiry about the non-existent baby, every feigned expression of grandmotherly excitement was a performance that drained me, leaving me hollowed out by nightfall. I played my part, the slightly anxious, deeply invested mother and mother-in-law. I listened patiently to their fabricated updates about Chloe's delicate condition, offering gentle advice I knew was utterly pointless. I even bought a tiny pair of booties, presenting them with a carefully constructed smile, watching the flicker of triumph, or was it guilt, in their eyes. It was sickening, but necessary. They were relaxed now, believing their secret safe, their prize secured. They spoke more freely around me, dropping comments about needing reliable childcare later on, discussing renovations for the nursery in the house they were supposedly buying with my money. Each word was a twist of the knife, but also a piece of information, a thread I could potentially use. Their greed was palpable, a hungry energy radiating from them. They weren't just content with the 100, 0. I sensed they saw me as a wellspring they could tap repeatedly. My grief began to morph, hardening from a raw wound into a cold, calculating core. The initial shock gave way to a quiet fury, not explosive, but deep and steady. I started thinking, really thinking. How could I turn their own avarice against them? How could I unravel their scheme without revealing my hand too soon? Revenge wasn't just about getting the money back, though that was certainly part of it. It was about making them understand the weight of their betrayal, the value of the trust they had so casually shattered. I needed a lever, something that would appeal directly to their desire for easy money, something that would make the 100, 0 seem like just the beginning. It had to be subtle, something introduced naturally. I began researching, spending hours online, not looking at baby clothes, but at investment schemes, property loopholes, financial instruments. My late husband had taught me a thing or two about managing money, about reading the fine print. Skills I hadn't needed much in my quiet life, until now. One evening, during one of their visits, ostensibly to cheer me up because I seemed a bit down, the irony was almost unbearable, I let slip a carefully crafted comment. "Oh, my goodness." I sighed, pretending to scroll through something on my tablet. My old friend Margaret just messaged me. Remember her? Her husband used to be in finance. Apparently, he's involved in some new private equity venture. Sounds almost too good to be true. Incredible returns, she says, but very exclusive. Needs significant capital upfront, though. I glanced up, gauging their reactions. Mark leaned forward slightly, his interest piqued. Chloe's eyes, usually darting around, fixed on me. The first silken thread of my web was cast. Eleanor has planted the seed of a new financial opportunity. Will Mark and Chloe, driven by their greed, inquire further about this exclusive venture? It didn't take long. Just 2 days later, Mark called. His tone was casual, almost too casual. Hey Mom, just checking in. How are you feeling? And, remember that thing your friend Margaret mentioned? That investment thing? Bingo. The fish were nibbling. I feigned vagueness. Oh, that? Yes, something about private equity. Sounded complicated, really. Probably not for me. I let a beat of silence hang, knowing it would work better than enthusiasm. Well? Mark pressed. It sounded interesting. You know, with the baby coming, we're thinking long-term security. Maybe it's something we should look into? If it's as good as Margaret's husband says. Oh, I don't know, Mark. I sighed, playing the cautious elder. These things can be risky, and Margaret said it requires a substantial initial investment. Way more than I have readily available now, especially after helping you two with the house. I let that sink in, reminding him of the money already given, subtly linking it to this new, potentially larger opportunity. Chloe got on the extension, her voice dripping with manufactured sweetness. Eleanor, darling, maybe it's worth just asking Margaret for details. No harm in looking, right? For the baby's future? The constant invocation of the imaginary child grated on my nerves, but I kept my voice even. Well, I conceded reluctantly, I suppose I could ask Margaret for the contact information. But Mark, Chloe, promise me you'll be careful. These high-return things often carry high risks. I reluctantly procured the, entirely fictional, contact details of a financial advisor associated with the venture, a burner phone number, and an email address I controlled. I forwarded them to Mark, adding a note. He apparently only deals with serious inquiries, minimum buy, in is quite steep, they said. Probably out of our league. Reverse psychology, appealing to their ego and greed simultaneously. They contacted Mr. Abernathy, my fictional creation, almost immediately. I responded, using formal, slightly aloof language, outlining a complex but incredibly promising, and utterly fake, investment in overseas sustainable technology development. I emphasized the exclusivity, the limited spots, the need for swift action, and crucially, a minimum investment threshold of 250. I knew they didn't have that kind of money lying around after supposedly putting a down payment on a house. A few days later, Mark and Chloe came over for dinner. The tension was palpable. They exchanged loaded glances. Finally, Mark cleared his throat. Mom, about that investment, Mr. Abernathy got back to us. It sounds incredible, truly life-changing. Chloe chimed in, her eyes gleaming. The returns he projected. We could pay off the house in a year, set up a college fund, travel. It's everything we dreamed of for our family. But, Mark continued, his gaze meeting mine, heavy with implication, the buy-in. It's significant. We used most of what you gave us for the house deposit and initial renovations, like we told you. A beat of silence. We were wondering if maybe you'd consider joining us. Pooling our resources? We could all benefit enormously. The bait was not just taken, they were practically begging for the hook. My heart hammered, not with fear, but with a cold, sharp thrill. They wanted more. They wanted me to invest alongside them, using the rest of my savings to chase their phantom fortune. Mark and Chloe want Eleanor to invest with them in the fake venture. Will she agree, drawing them deeper into her trap? What will she demand in return? I let the silence stretch, pretending to weigh their proposition. I looked from Mark's earnest face to Chloe's hopeful one, their masks firmly in place. Inside, I felt a chilling calm. They saw me as the key to unlocking greater wealth, still oblivious that I held the key to their downfall. Pool our resources? I repeated slowly, rubbing my temples as if contemplating a difficult decision. Mark, Chloe, that's a tremendous amount of money. My entire remaining nest egg. It's everything I have left for my own future, my security. I let my voice tremble slightly. Are you absolutely certain about this, Mr. Abernathy? Have you vetted him properly? Of course, Mom, Mark insisted, a little too quickly. We checked him out online. His company has a website, a simple one I'd created. Everything looks legitimate. And your friend Margaret trusts him implicitly, right? Margaret trusts her husband, I corrected gently. And even the best intentions can go wrong, this feels rushed. I needed to make them work for it, to feel they had persuaded me against my better judgment. Chloe placed a hand on my arm, her touch feeling like ice. Eleanor, please. Think about it. This isn't just for us. It's for you too. You deserve to enjoy your retirement, not worry about every penny. This could secure all our futures. Imagine never having to worry about money again. I sighed dramatically. It's just putting everything into one basket like this. What if something goes wrong? I looked at them, letting vulnerability cloud my eyes. If I were to do this, I'd need some assurance, some security. Not just for my sake, but legally, it makes sense if we're combining finances this way. Mark frowned slightly. Security? Like what? Well, I said, choosing my words carefully. If I'm investing the bulk of the capital, it seems reasonable that I have some collateral. Just temporarily, of course. Until the investment pays out. Perhaps you could sign a simple agreement? A promissory note, acknowledging the total amount invested, including the initial 100,000 I gave you for the house, tied to, say, your car? Or maybe that antique jewelry Chloe inherited from her aunt? Just as a formality, to make me feel more secure about liquidating everything. I watched their faces closely. Mark looked hesitant, the mention of the car hitting a nerve. Chloe's smile tightened almost imperceptibly at the mention of her jewelry. Greed warred with caution. But the lure of the massive payout, the life-changing fortune promised by Mr. Abernathy, was too strong. A promissory note? Chloe said, forcing a light laugh. That sounds so formal. Eleanor, we're family. Business is business, dear, I replied gently but firmly. Even in families. Especially when such large sums are involved. It protects everyone. It's just a piece of paper, really. Once the investment matures in, what did Mr. Abernathy say? 6 months? We tear it up. Mark looked at Chloe. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. The potential reward outweighed the perceived risk. They thought it was just a formality, a way to appease the old woman's anxieties. They didn't realize the document I would have drawn up would be ironclad, legally binding, and far more comprehensive than they imagined, linking their liability not just to the car or jewelry, but implicitly acknowledging the source and purpose of all the funds involved. Okay, Mom, Mark finally said, trying to sound reassuring. If it makes you feel better, of course, we trust you. We'll sign whatever you need. They've agreed to sign a document tying their assets to the total sum, including the initial 100K. What exactly will the document entail, and how will Eleanor use it to tighten the noose? With their agreement secured, I didn't rush. I let a week pass, allowing their anticipation for the fictional investment to build. I mentioned casually that I was talking to my lawyer to draft the promissory note, making it sound routine. In reality, I consulted Mrs. Braun. Davies, a sharp, discreet solicitor my late husband had trusted implicitly. I explained the situation carefully, omitting the fake investment part, but focusing on securing a loan I was making to my son and daughter-in-law, incorporating the previous 100 Zero gift as part of the total sum they were now liable for, secured against specific assets. Mrs. Davies raised an eyebrow but drafted an airtight document. Meanwhile, I subtly turned up the heat. I knew Mark had been counting on a year-end bonus that was usually substantial. Through an old acquaintance in his company's HR department, a woman I'd helped years ago when her own family was in crisis, I made a discreet, anonymous inquiry that triggered a minor audit into departmental expenses. Nothing illegal would be found, but it was enough to make management cautious. Mark's expected bonus was suddenly deferred pending review. He came to me, stressed and complaining, completely unaware of my invisible hand. Then, a problem arose with their apartment building. A notice went up about urgent plumbing repairs requiring temporary relocation for several units, including theirs. The cost of a short-term rental, even for a few weeks, was exorbitant. This wasn't my direct doing, merely fortunate timing I could exploit. Chloe called me in a panic, her voice tight with anxiety. "Eleanor, it's a disaster. We have to move out for a month, maybe longer, and the temporary places cost a fortune. We need the deposit money now, but it's all tied up waiting for the house closing." This was the moment. I listened sympathetically, tutting and sighing. "Oh, dear," I said. "That's terrible timing, especially with the baby coming." I let the lie hang in the air, a bitter taste in my mouth. And Mark's bonus being delayed, what rotten luck. They were squeezed. Financial pressure mounted from unexpected quarters, making the promise of Mr. Abernathy's miracle investment seem not just desirable, but absolutely essential. Their desperation was becoming palpable. When I finally presented the promissory note, they barely skimmed it. I watched as Mark signed, his jaw tight with stress over the bonus and the apartment. Chloe added her signature quickly, her mind likely on finding a temporary rental. The document clearly listed the total amount, $250, the initial, $100K, plus the fictional, $150 for the new venture, and specified the collateral, Mark's car, Chloe's inherited jewelry, and crucially, a clause Mrs. Davies had cleverly worded, assigning liability that could potentially attach to future assets if the primary collateral was insufficient, referencing the funds intended for family establishment and future security. They signed away their safety net, blinded by greed and manufactured pressure. I filed the document safely away. The pieces were moving into place. The pressure cooker was whistling. Mark and Chloe are under increasing financial strain and have signed the crucial document. What is Eleanor's next move to spring the trap? The fictional 6-month maturation date for Mr. Abernathy's investment approached. Mark and Chloe grew increasingly restless, their calls becoming more frequent, their questions about the payout more pointed. The financial pressures I'd subtly orchestrated or exploited hadn't eased. Mark's bonus remained elusive, tied up in bureaucratic knots. The temporary rental was bleeding them dry. They were counting desperately on this windfall. I arranged a meeting at my house. Mr. Abernathy's office contacted me. I told them over the phone, keeping my voice neutral. There are some final details regarding the disbursement. It seems best we discuss it together. They arrived practically vibrating with anticipation, their faces alight with greedy hope. Chloe was already talking about booking a cruise, Mark about upgrading the car, the one he'd just signed over as collateral, ironically. They sat on my sofa, leaning forward expectantly. I let them talk for a few minutes, outlining their extravagant plans built on sand. Then I cleared my throat. "There's been a complication with the investment," I began, watching their smiles falter. "Complication?" Mark asked sharply. "What kind of complication?" "It seems," I continued, my voice steady, "that the regulatory bodies have flagged certain aspects of the venture. Funds have been frozen pending investigation. Mr. Abernathy has become unreachable." Panic flared in Chloe's eyes. "Frozen? Unreachable? What does that mean? What about our money?" "Our money," I repeated softly, the chill finally entering my voice. Or my money, Chloe? The money I gave you for a grandchild that never existed? Silence. Utter deafening silence. Their faces went slack, masks dissolving into disbelief and dawning horror. Mark stared at me, his mouth slightly open. Chloe's face drained of color, leaving her looking stark and suddenly older. What? What are you talking about? Mark stammered, but his eyes darted guiltily towards Chloe. I'm talking about the conversation I overheard, I said, my voice gaining strength, each word precise. The day I came over because Chloe was supposedly spotting. I heard everything. The fake pregnancy, the plan to get my savings, your laughter. Chloe gasped, putting a hand to her mouth. Mark looked physically ill. You thought I was a fool? I went on, the pain of the memory fueling a righteous anger I hadn't known I possessed. You preyed on my love, my hope for a grandchild. You took my life savings under false pretenses. Mom, Eleanor, we can explain, Mark began, desperation creeping into his voice. Explain what? I cut him off, standing up. Explain the lies? The manipulation? The sheer, calculated cruelty of it? There's nothing to explain. There is only the truth. And the consequences. I walked over to my desk and picked up the promissory note they had signed so carelessly. This document, however, is very real. It acknowledges a debt of 250 secured by your assets. Since the investment you were counting on to repay it has conveniently vanished, because it, like your grandchild, never existed, the terms are now in effect. Chloe let out a choked sob. You set us up? The investment? Abernathy? You set yourselves up, I corrected, my voice hard. You built a trap of lies and greed, and you walked right into it. I simply held the door open. The truth is out. Eleanor has revealed she knows everything and holds the legally binding document. How will Mark and Chloe react to this devastating revelation and the imminent financial ruin? The aftermath was ugly, but quiet. There was no screaming rage, no dramatic breakdown, just the chilling implosion of their world. Mark slumped back against the sofa cushions, looking utterly defeated, the fight draining out of him. Chloe stared at the promissory note in my hand, as if it were a viper poised to strike, silent tears tracing paths down her pale cheeks. The car, my jewelry, she whispered, the reality sinking in. And potentially more, I stated calmly, gesturing towards the fine print Mrs. Davies had included. The debt is substantial. The collateral might not cover it entirely. Mark finally looked up, his eyes pleading. Mom, please, we made a mistake. A terrible mistake. We were desperate, stupid. You were cruel, I corrected, my voice unwavering. You weren't desperate, you were greedy. You didn't just make a mistake. You orchestrated a deliberate, hurtful deception targeting someone who loved you unconditionally. You gambled with my love, my trust, my security, and you lost. There were pleas, apologies laced with self-pity, attempts to shift blame. I listened, unmoved. The woman who would have once crumbled at the sight of her son's distress was gone, replaced by someone forged in the fire of betrayal. I explained calmly that Mrs. Blaine Davies would be in touch regarding the execution of the promissory note and the liquidation of the collateral to recoup the funds. The initial 100 would be recovered first. Any remaining debt from the fictional 150 acknowledged in the note would hang over them. They left my house not with the swagger of anticipated wealth, but with the slumped shoulders of ruin. The following weeks saw the unraveling of their carefully constructed facade. The car was repossessed. Chloe tearfully surrendered her grandmother's heirlooms. They had to break their lease on the expensive temporary rental, moving into a cramped, dingy apartment far from the life they'd envisioned. Word travels, even without my intervention. Whispers of their financial troubles, their sudden downsizing, began to circulate. The respect they craved evaporated. Did I take pleasure in their downfall? No. There was a profound sadness in seeing my son brought so low, in knowing the relationship we once had was irrevocably broken. But there was also a sense of quiet justice, of balance restored. They hadn't just lost money, they had lost dignity, trust, and the unwavering support they had taken for granted. Perhaps, in the harsh light of consequence, they might finally understand the value of what they had thrown away. As for me, retrieving the money was secondary to reclaiming myself. The experience, though agonizing, had revealed a strength I never knew I possessed. I wasn't just Mark's doting mother anymore. I was Eleanor, a woman who had faced profound betrayal and navigated her way through it with intelligence and resolve. I started reconnecting with old friends, exploring hobbies I'd set aside, even tentatively planning a trip I'd always dreamed of, funded by the money I had rightfully reclaimed. My world was no longer defined solely by my son, but by my own resilience, my own worth. The cage of gilded joy had been replaced by the open air of self-respect, and though scarred, I could finally breathe freely again. The silence in my house was no longer lonely, it was peaceful. It was mine. Eleanor's story leaves us with a mix of sorrow and satisfaction. While the bonds of family were tragically broken, her quiet strength and calculated response ensured that justice, in its own way, was served. It's a stark reminder that trust, once shattered, is incredibly hard to mend, and that underestimating someone's resilience can lead to devastating consequences. What do you think? Could you have done what Eleanor did, or would forgiveness have been your path? Share your thoughts and experiences with family betrayal in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you appreciate stories of resilience and righteous revenge, please subscribe to Revenge with Emma for more compelling narratives.